discuss horse handling for the trimmer. Now, we do have a video on horse handling, but I'm going to go into a bit more depth here, specifically on how to use your tools correctly under the horse, how not to get into what we call the no zone, which I'll show you in just a minute here, and how not to get hurt. Basically, I want to make sure that you keep your back in the right position and that you're not going to either hurt the horse or yourself. Now, one of the first things that I always teach at our workshops, and I insist on, is that you never pick up a horse's foot with a tool in hand. And the reason is that horse can spin, that horse can strike out, he can do a number of things. Even if it's your own horse, you never know what might happen. So it's not good to have any kind of implement that could injure the horse in your hand. So what we have here is a tool that I devised that keeps the tools off the ground and keeps them at hand. It's called a calf caddy. And the calf caddy was designed, it came about because of my teaching, having 8 or 9 horses on the cross ties at one time. And going from horse to horse, I really didn't want to have to worry about my tools carrying with me in a toolbox or asking a student for their tools. So I developed a calf caddy, which is quite handy. It holds a rasp safely at hand, a knife. You could put a hoof pick in here. There's enough room on the inside of the calf caddy because it's not meant to be worn tight, so we could put a set of hoof testers in there or pullers or any other type of tool that you might need under the horse. But that keeps the tools safely in place. They're always at hand. I want to talk a little bit about how we get under this horse and what we consider the no zones and the comfort zone. What's interesting on a horse, and we have done this on another video, but I think it's important to go over it again so that we're clear on this type of information. I like to work in an area called a comfort zone. It's areas that I can apply pressure where we don't normally apply pressure on a day-to-day basis, either in our training or in handling the horse. For instance, if I go to the areas that we consider the no zone, which would be here or here or here, these are all areas that the horse is used to us communicating some type of movement. We're going to either lateral movement, where we want to move the hind end away from us, or we want to move forward with the horse. We apply pressure. Well, there are areas that we don't use in a day-to-day basis, and that is our comfort zone. And the reason I call it a comfort zone is quite simply because it's a big C on the horse. It's right through the area, down the horse, over his hock, and down the leg. Okay, right over his gaskin here, over his rump, and down. So that's a comfort zone for the horse, where you can see he is comfortable in standing because I haven't given him any clue or any cues to move. So I can use those areas to communicate what I want, and what I want for him to do is just what he's doing, standing still. Okay. If I have a horse that I'm concerned that he might be a striker or a kicker, obviously I don't want to be directly in front of the leg. When I go to pick it up, because I'm working alone, I often work alone on young horses, which we might show you a little bit in another video on a baby. But what I like to do is keep the rope to the outside of my body so that I can pick up the limb. And the way I always pick up my front limb is to make sure that my horse is set up for success. The last thing I want to do is set him up for failure, which we often do. And right now, if we take a look at this, the limb that actually is easiest to pick up would probably be this front. We've got a tripod created by the other 3, and if I move forward with the knee, I can pick the leg up, and he sets himself up in a nice tripod and can relax. I never pick up at the toe and pull up on the leg. The reason I don't do that is because it develops a cue for that leg wanting to move forward. It's something that a horse will respond to by moving forward. It's very similar to if we take our hand and do this. Our response is to move away from that pressure. Well, the same goes for the horse, and that's something that we see children do on ponies a lot because they're so short, small, the ponies being small, or adults even because they're so small, they lift on that foot to get it in a position where they can pick it out. Well, that's the type of horse that can develop the bad habit of pulling away or striking out. So I tend to want to let that leg, we're going to transfer the weight to the off fore, the off hind, put pressure behind the knee, come around, bring his cannon bone up. Come on, buddy. Nice and easy. And let him relax. We want to let him relax. We don't want to lift on the toe. Now, I'm going to let him ground tie because he's a good boy and we don't have much of a problem. Something I want to show you here that will make a big difference in how you get under this horse. If we bring this leg between our legs without first going down, the leg can't move to the hind, can't move back. So we can't get it out far enough to work on. If we come down in an arc, we can bring the leg back farther to the hind end of the horse, which means when I bring it between my legs, I can bring it up to where I need it and be far enough away from my legs to work on it. Whereas if I came behind my leg and just went like this, it doesn't go back far enough. Okay, so what we need to do is make the horse comfortable, and we bring it between our legs, down in an arc, and back up again, and put our knees right behind the foot. We want to be out of this area here. We want to be in this area. We don't want to be too close to the forearm of the horse, because we'll be pushing him forward. We don't want to be too close in on the horse, as he'll want to move away from us. The horse's leg can comfortably move out to a pretty good degree. Right there. So we have plenty of room to work. We have a comfort zone, and we have no zones. Now, the no zones are real important to remember, and you'll see when we're under this horse where they can cause their problems, getting into the no zone with your elbow or with your side of your body or with your backside on his forearm. So these are all no zones that we have right here. So the first thing we need to do is set our horse up for success, and again, for picking up the foot. Okay, we had talked about this already. I want to make it a little bit clearer, I think. And what we're going to do is make sure that our horse establishes weight correctly on the opposite foot of the forefoot, off 4. So we're going to transfer by putting weight right in the shoulder. And if you watch the pastern, it's my transfer of weight. Once I get that transfer of weight, I can transfer by pushing diagonally to the off hind, which will help to establish weight on the off hind, and the pastern back there drops a little bit. Well, it's similar to trailer loading. It's done in one fluid movement. If you hesitate, you're lost. So when we're picking up the foot, we want to apply the pressure, apply pressure behind the knee, and it allows the foot to come up. We're pretty comfortable in this position. Again, let that foot just hang. Don't go and pull up on it. All right, so we want to keep it there. To get into position to get under this horse, I'm going to move back so that the hoof is directly beside my leg. My toes are just comfortably spread apart and slightly turned in. I can reach with my other hand between my legs and put my thumb and forefinger directly around the pastern, allowing the toe to drop. Then I move down with the limb towards my feet, towards the back of the horse, up, pushing down on the toe, bringing my knees in behind the leg, okay, right behind the bulbs of the heel. So here I am. I'm going to get under this horse, put it between my legs, but that's where I want that foot, right next to my knee. Okay, I'm going to reach through a thumb and forefinger, let the toe go down, come between my legs, putting the toe down, come straight up, pushing down on the toe. Now I'm in a comfortable position, and here I have plenty of room between myself and that no zone. When I'm working with my rasp or I'm working with my knife, I can work comfortably without getting my elbow into the horse in any way. No matter what tool I'm using or what position I'm in, I'm always keeping my elbow out of the no zone. I'm now going to introduce my wife, Robin. She's going to come in and we're going to show you some things that I think will help you if you have a handler. Hello, Robin. We're going to take Tiger here, and she's going to take the lead, and she's always going to be on the same side as the trimmer. Now, something I want you to be aware of is how much control the handler has, particularly when holding the head, because when she moves the head out or towards me, it pulls the leg in. So now I have more pressure on the inside, and I'm being pulled under the horse. Now, if I have a horse that might be a little stiff in the shoulder, Robin, if you take the horse's head away, the limb now comes out, and I have less pressure, and I can work on the limb and less pressure on the shoulder. Now, Robin, I want you to take the head and move him down. Now, immediately when the head goes down, I'm starting to feel pressure, and he wants to pull downward on me. So he wants to kind of lay on me. I want you to go up as high as you can with the head. When that occurs, the limb wants to go. You can see my knees going. He wants to pull the limb forward. So what we really want to do is keep that head in a neutral position to where he's comfortable, and I can get comfortable and be in a good position to trim without sitting on his forearm. This is where people sometimes make a mistake, is they get too close to the head and they're sitting on the forearm, and when they're not paying attention, they're literally sitting on their horse, and you can see right now he's starting to get antsy on me. There he goes, because I was sitting on his forearm. And it's a very common problem that we see occurring. It's something that happens quite often, and we have to be aware of our size of our backside and where we are in position to the head. Some smaller people don't have much of a problem, but some of us larger people have problems. So we have to move farther to the back of the horse, leaving space between that forearm and our backside. We're going to go now, and I'm going to show you a couple of more little tricks that you can use for staying under this horse. And we're going to go to the hind end. And Robin, thank you very much. I'm going to allow him to be ground tied again because he's such a good boy. We'll see Robin again in just a short. I want to explain why I put so much emphasis on getting under the horse as opposed to sitting on a stool to the side or putting it on your knee to the side. There is a reason for it. Well, first of all, it's not very safe to be on your knees next to a horse. In case something happens, it's hard to get out of the way. The horse can come right over the top of you, particularly if you're on a stool. I see some trimming techniques being done where they're on mechanic stools on wheels. Not a very safe place to be. The major reason that I suggest you be under the horse, or I insist on you being under the horse, is for correct perspective. When we're trying to get balance on a horse's foot, it's difficult to get the way we do as a farrier in T-square. It's even harder when you're on your hands and knees or down on your knees next to the horse and holding it at an angle to get that same perspective. It's even worse than the T-square method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this leg now, and I'm going to look down it in the T-square method, which I showed you in the last video at the Perfect Hoof Club. And that's one way. So here we're looking down and creating a T-square. But now I'm going to show you what happens when we get down here to do our trimming and our work. We're looking at it at an angle. And if I were to try to get the live sole plane without getting right over the horse, it's difficult, and I tend to be a little high always on the lateral side. But when I get under the horse, I'm going to show you how much easier it is to find that plane. Here, things look all out of perspective because of the angle at which we're looking at it. It's a difficult place to work because you have to work with one hand when you're working. It's very difficult to do that, to do all your trimming. So it's not a comfortable place for you. It may be for the horse in some cases, but in most cases, it's just as comfortable for the horse if you're under them, if you're doing it in the right position. It makes your job easier, which will allow you to do it quicker, better, and more comfortably for the horse. I can get the perspective I need to get my true plane as opposed to looking at an angle to it. It also allows me to use two hands to do a proper trim as opposed to trying to do it all with one hand. I have much more strength and much more dexterity being able to use two hands. So I'm going to do a much better trim as opposed to sitting on the side trying to use one hand. Okay, now I'm going to talk about some other problems that we run into when we're under the horse if we can. I'm going to get him back where he belongs so we can see him. That should be good right there. So we have him in camera. I'm going to make sure we set him up for success. There we go. We'll step back just a half a step. I don't mind taking the time to set him up because it teaches him to stand quietly, whereas if we don't take the time and we're pushing him around or he's pushing us around, he's not going to learn a thing. Horses are a negative response animal, and they pick up things much faster through negative response than they do through positive. So if we really want to teach this horse and to instill good behavior, we've got to take the time. We can't rush it. As a professional trimmer, it's not a major problem because it really doesn't take a lot of time if you know where to go with each horse. Every horse is going to be a little bit different. It's very common to have a student start working on a horse and we see problems developing where the horse is uncomfortable and they're uncomfortable, and they get to the point where they say, this horse is just sore and I got to give him a break, or he's sore and I can't pull the leg this way or I can't pull the leg that way. Well, a lot of the times it's only because we don't know how to work with that type of horse. I'm hoping that I can show you that most any horse can be worked with by being under the horse. You don't have to be on a seat or on your knees working on a horse, even if he has some problems. You will always have those horses that have severe problems, where we have arthritis in the knee or we have problems with the shoulders, but the shoulder is not as common as you think. Most horses, as I showed, are pretty comfortable coming out with their leg without a problem, so we have plenty of room to get in there. When it comes to working on these guys, and where I see the most problems, as I showed, was sitting on a forearm. Also with the elbows getting into the horses. Well, I'm going to try to show you going forward for flare up front, when people do flare, and where the mistakes are made there. Okay. Whenever I'm picking up for flare, I tend to want to put my back to the horse, and again in that comfort zone, working in the comfort zone. Make sure I have the pressure where I want it. Go to the back of the knee, go towards the head. Just literally pull. If I just gently pull towards the head, the leg's going to come up. I don't have to lift the leg. I have to make sure it's going to come towards the head, which means it has to come up. And most horses are very comfortable in this position. Most horses prefer to be about horizontal to the ground in this position. For doing the flare, what I'll do is I'll take both sides of the foot and feel for a downward movement. When you're in the right position on any horse, it doesn't take more than a finger or two to hold it in the right place. If you're in the wrong position, which is forward, he'll start to lean. This is where a lot of people think they need to have a low stand. Well, look what he's doing. He's very uncomfortable. He's actually got too much weight on his on the front end and not on the hind end, and he wants to come forward and put pressure. And it might keep it on the stand a little bit, but it's very uncomfortable for the horse, and eventually he'll want to do what he's doing right now. Pull it into the position he wants to be in. And the position he wants to be in is right there. So I can hold this with one finger when it's in the right position. Well, how am I going to do the flare? I'm going to do the lateral flare by putting my knee right there. Then I'm going to use my upper body to lock that leg on my knee, and my leg has to be directly below the horse's foot. Not back here, not out here, but directly below the horse's foot. Then I can put a little pressure with my upper body onto his leg to lock it to my knee, and it allows me to use my hands to remove the flare. Another way, if you have a horse that's leaning, is to turn in on the horse, bring your knees together, place it in the same position there, and you can work your flare. That's if you have a leaner. Now to do the opposite side, I would reverse myself, be on the outside or the lateral side of the foot to work the medial side. Again, the places where people make mistakes are when they try to use a stand and they get it too low, or they try to get it too low on their leg by bringing their leg back and they're leaning this way. It's very stressful. Or they try to do this and they're down here too low because they're trying to get it low. You don't have to get it low on most horses. Even arthritic horses, you can see the knee's not very bent here, but I'm about almost horizontal. So it's fairly comfortable for the horse. I'm not bending the knee a great deal, you can see. So even horses that have problems usually stand pretty well when we get them in the right position, right about there. Good. All right, buddy. Let's bring you back around. All right. I'm going to bring my wife Robin back again so we can show you how the handler can really make it difficult to do flare. So I'm going to have Robin do all those common mistakes that we see a handler doing. One of the most common mistakes is not being in the right position. If we have a horse that strikes, we have to be very careful that Robin's not in a position that knee is going to get to that, hit her. So she has to stay just forward of the horse, and I'm going to have Robin hold the horse here. Now, just like when I was under the horse, how she holds the horse for doing the flare is extremely important because the position of the weight from the horse's head is really a major influence on how we stay under this horse or the way we feel under this horse, whether we feel comfortable or not. So I'm going to set him up for success. We can just pop him back just a touch. Excellent. Let's rock him forward just a little bit. Right there. Perfect. Now he's set up a little better for success. I'm going to transfer that weight. I'm going to go behind the knee, bring the leg up. I'm immediately going to bring it forward, holding the sides of the foot, looking for my position, put my knee in place, get my leg down. Now Robin's in a good position there, but I want you to bring his head this way and down on me, and there's what happens. Now I want you to bring it back where it belongs. Now I want you to go that way and out. And what he's doing now is you can see he's pulling me. It's pulling me this way, and I'm losing it that way. So having it in a neutral position, you don't want to bring it down. Robin, come down as if you want to see what I'm doing. And bring the horse's head with you. And what happens is we start to get much more weight on our knee. That can be beneficial in some cases where the horse might want to try to get off of our knee, so lowering the head might help. Now let's go back up with the head into the neutral position. Once the horse is in the neutral position, we can get our work done here. I'm going to go to the opposite side, place the knee in position. Again, that leg is close to horizontal. Get my upper body down. Now I can work the inside of that foot towards the toe. And again, it's very important now the horse is turning its head. There. Once it comes back straight again, I can stay comfortable. You get this constant movement with the movement of the head, which makes it very uncomfortable on a trimmer. So the trimmer has got a very large responsibility, or the handler has a large responsibility in keeping that head in a neutral position. To put the leg down, simply relax, place it on the ground. I'm going to go to the back now. We're going to start at the shoulder, as I said, and I'm just going to ground tie him once I get going here. I'm going to put the pressure down the side through the comfort zone, over the back of the horse, moving this towards his head. As soon as it comes up, I'm going to cup that fetlock and let it go back in its own arc until I have it vertical. I'm not expecting you to get into this position, but I want to get here so I can show you what we call our window of opportunity. The leg is hanging comfortably. Most any horse, regardless of its ailments or pathologies, will stand like this, whether it's a hock problem or a stifle problem. This is the position where they're most comfortable in many of the cases. So this is where I want to be. Now I'm going to get into position beside the foot so that we can pick this, so we can get under this leg. What I'm going to do is get directly beside the foot and have it so it's right next to my knee. Now that I have this in the position I want, I'm holding it with my opposite hand, holding the fetlock right beside my knee. Now I'm going to take my knees through that window of opportunity. Down, creating a ramp, come up, and now instead of lifting, which is what people make the mistake, they come up now, and the leg wants to slide off. That's the biggest mistake I see people make, is they go this way, and then they come up, and the leg just wants to go down just like it did. Instead, what I want you to do is go down, then to the side. Now as I come to the side, the limb comes up until I have a position down my leg, following his leg. Stays in position. Where people again make a mistake is they turn in, and the limb wants to fall off. So if I can get under there, create resistance this way. Now I can work to get what I want. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you where some people run into some problems with doing things like the readdress or doing addressing our quarters where they're hitting their leg. Well, as long as you have the proper angle on the rasp, it doesn't have to. You can clear your limb in all directions. Same here. When it comes to the toe, the same thing. You don't have to be going up and down where you're going to hit your leg. You can come across as long as the surface of the rasp is at the proper angle. I want to show you how we work on flare on the hind foot, and also how to keep yourself safe if you have a horse that likes to kick or is a kicker, or a horse that just stamps real hard. You never really know those horses whether or not they're going to go for you. So you always want to keep yourself close to your horse. Again, I start at the shoulder and I work my way down the horse with my back to the horse, keeping my hand on the horse. I use my arm to protect myself. I go down over the back, and again I want to move towards the head, always having my forearm between that leg and my head. And now I go towards the head. Now that it's up, we showed you how to get to the hind, but now I'm going to show you how to do flare. I simply turn my back on the horse, grab the side of the foot, stretch the toe out, put it between my legs, and stay in a safe position. If something happens, if I'm working this horse alone, I can pull his head this way and this horse is away from me. So I tend to just use this right here. So I have my line. To do flare, the position is here. I start at the heels and work my way down the toe, taking any flare that might be on the foot. Always stay in one place until the flare is gone. Proceeding forward. I can get to about here, then I can work this way. Once I've done that, I'm going to do the opposite flare, and I simply do that by passing it behind my back, bringing it forward, finding that downward position with the foot, which is going to be right about there, put my knee directly under it, get myself down on the leg. I use my upper body to hold it there. Get right down on it, hold it. Then I can work the flare from this side and finish up in the toe. But the idea is to get down on that leg. Get your body down on that leg. Get it right down on it, hold it in place. That holds it in place, and you can still use two arms. You don't want to use one hand, you want to use two. And you're always pulling your rasp, never pushing it. Okay, that's another trick when you're doing flare, is pull it with this hand. Let it just fall down the foot on a plane. Some mistakes people make, they're too far under their horse. That's a major mistake, okay? They get out too far. There's a position where he's comfortable, and that happens to be right there. To safely get out, always have your hand between you and the horse, or your arm between you and the horse. Down and finish.